Yeah, thanks, Steve. Yeah, hi, my name's Rob Morgan. I'm one of the account directors at Westcon. I just wanted to introduce myself. First, thank you for everyone for taking time out today to end our Aura Release 7 update session. This session has come about following our Avaya Aura 7 launch event at Guildford, Avaya Guildford on the 3rd of September. We decided to put together 2 further update sessions via webinar to ensure as many partners as possible can attend and benefit from a condensed summary. And I guess what I mean by that is, to put this into some perspective, Steve Scott's been on the recent tech share with Avaya where the Release 7 update took place, which was a week-long session and over 2,500 slides I think Steve had to start with. What he's done for this session and the one following next week is condense the detail and provide the key takeaways for the Aura 7 release. Topics that will be covered today with the Aura 7 platform elements overview, benefits of AVP and SDM, AMS, where does it fit and how does it size, what's new in Session Manager, AES and EDP, and then at the end of the session, Steve will be running through some indicative costings, I guess, to give us everyone a feel for pricing that's going to be, well, already now in ASE. And just a really other key point I'd like to just make everyone aware of is that there is a recording of this session today. So as there's going to be a fair bit of details to take down, we'll be sending out an email following this session to everyone that's attended today, so you can have that for your records. And I think that was it. I think the other key point was Steve wanted the session to be as interactive as possible. So there is a text box in the Scopia where if you've got any questions during the update, please put down the question and we'll come back to you as soon as we can. But really, again, thanks from us for joining the call, and I hope you find it a useful session. And without further ado, Steve, would you like to start off the session?
Thanks, Rob. Will do. For your information, my email address is at the bottom there, so if you get any questions that you need to email directly on, give me a shout. So without further ado, I'll move on to slide 1. So this first slide, as you already know, Aura itself is an umbrella term, and it's able, via apps, to provide a solution for us. So let's use a UC solution to expand on what this slide is telling us and to give you a possible scenario. My colleague, Andrew, who's on the call as we speak as well, will also be answering any questions that you have via that window for your benefit there. So imagine he's based at home, and so am I. Not the same home, I hasten to add. But we are both using Avaya clients, and as such, we are using the advanced features of the SBC. I can also see that he's free because his press is saying so. So I start an instant messaging session with him. Then via Aura multimedia messaging, I might send him some pictures and some videos. So after we've done our non-work activities, we then return to work, and then I escalate that session to a call. And after a chat with him, I then escalate it again and further to a conference call because I need to bring in another one of my colleagues. And again, I'll be escalating that again to add on video and also perhaps share my desktop with a bit of recording. That is some solution. And by the way, I can do this all via our smartphones. I don't have to use soft phones to do this. So as you can see, with all that in position, we have a very compelling story, and we're able to take on the likes of Microsoft and even IP Office. So this is what this slide is beginning to tell us. Now, obviously, that was just the UC story. There is a call center element to that as well. I mean, obviously, Avaya's #1 in the call center market, has been for quite a few years now. So, yeah, so we can, with the one platform, we can deliver a full UC story and a full CC story. Okay, so the second slide on this is to show us the applications or the servers that are required in order to provide that solution. And this is by no means all the solutions, because you haven't got Aura messaging and engagement development platform and things of that nature. But as you can see, there are multiple applications that do things for us. So what we got in Aura 7 then, we've got a host of new features. I'll show you a picture of those later, but I've just picked one item, which I've highlighted in red on these slides, to be able to show you the 4 topics that tend to be released when we're talking about a new product launch. So lower TCO, we have flexible virtualized deployments models now. So we have something called AVP, which is Avaya Virtualization, and within that we can now specify the size and types of applications we need to generate. Now, if we have a look at the scalability element, you can see that, yes, all right, it's got 250,000 users, but the other thing which most people forget is the devices, because you've got this MDA feature, this ability to have one extension number and up to 10 applications or phones or whatever associated with that extension number. So in terms of scalability, dumps here, but this is what this does, and this is what we're going to have a look at. Now, in terms of security, you've also got encryption to a higher level than we had previously. So this is better for us as well, and there are other security elements on there as well. And then if we have a look at present services, this has been rewritten from the ground up because it was, let's just say, not the best at what it did. It's now moved to engagement development platform, which, you know, is where we do all of our new application development stuff. So we're adding present services to that. We also have something called the Avaya Aura Media Server. Now, this is the ability to provide on a server a bag of software-based DSP resources. So this could replace, and I'll say the word could, replace your G650 or 450s. It has the same abilities that a G450. You think about the black plane on it, the announcements, the tone detection, it does all that. And therefore, if you have a large solution that requires call recording, call center, and a load of DSPs, then perhaps this is the way to go forward. So also AMS is provided in a virtualization scenario, and it has high availability as well. So we can have a look at, I'll come into those a bit later on for you. So moving on to the next slide. So what this does, as I said, this can scale all the way up to 4,000 DSPs, which if you try to do that with a G450 scenario, if you can see on the left, it's an awful lot of rack space and a load of kit and loads of tin, if you like, in order to provide that. Now, some of these data centers charge you on wattage or kilowatts per hour, plus also rack space itself. Now, if we can deliver all that and reduce your costs down to one single server over 1U, then maybe that's a possible solution to go forward. So where does it fit in, this AMS? So on the left-hand side, you can see that we're looking at large customers here that have got loads of requirements for DSP resources, call recordings, IVRs, older style gateways, or maybe people that just want to expand onto what they've already got but don't want to reinvest in any more of this old technology and use the new stuff. But on the right hand side, you can see that there in blue, it does not supply any TDM functionality. If you've got T38 faxes, if you still want to retain your existing G450s and perhaps add a few more, that's probably not going to be cost effective to add an AMS and just stick with your existing G-series gateways. So in terms of an overview of AVP, so Avaya Virtualization, or as you can see what it's called at the top there, Application Virtualization Platform is what they love to call it. But basically this is a cut down version of Vmware, which allows us to be able to put multiple applications on the same server. Now, we did have this previously with ME or MES, as you may know. That was based on system platform. That's gone, and this is the new version that we have going forward. And I'll be talking about this a bit further on as well. You can see bottom right-hand side as well, the actual supported hardware. So this would be the old common servers, not the old 8730s and 20s and things of that nature, and the current version 2s. There is also a Gen 3 server coming out as well, Some of it has it already, some of it doesn't, but again, it's supported on all those. We also support from an LSP and a gateway point of view, the Ds. There is a new E as well. This point going forward, I would suggest you go down the E road because they're the same as the Ds anyway. Okay, so if we have a look at the flexibility of that AVP solution, if you have a look on the left-hand side of this, you've got data centers. And we've got in the data center 4 separate applications, but because of the HA abilities or the large amounts of users that are on there, perhaps I need to keep those all separately. So I've got 4 separate servers there. Whereas if I have a look in the regional office, I've still got the same 4 applications, but this time I'm spreading the load, spreading the love, if you like, over 2 servers rather than 4. So I'm reducing my TCO in that case just by having 2 servers. And then if we go all the way down to the branch office, I've got 1 single server running a whole host of applications. The LSP that I mentioned there is not the S8300D or the E, it's the simplex server version. But again, you can run the whole lot on 1 server. Now, you might also, well, you will have to get used to pricing the way that it does it. I'll show you a bit later on, but we do a small, medium, and large servers that come out of ASD now. And there's also a specially large, I do love the name of that one, specially large, for just single deployments, just for high-end, high BHCCs from a call center point of view, not shared with anything else. It's probably going to be the specially large one. There is a key thing from some of your engineers on this call as well. ASD will now determine how many servers and the size that are required to support applications. So as you'll see when I get to the pricing element of it, that if I say I want product X, Y, and Z, it will then say to do that, you will need an amount of servers, 1 or 2 or 3, and we'll then have a report which will then go to engineering in order to be telling them what goes on what server. So from a communication manager point of view, this is not Aura. I wouldn't get overexcited about the additional features within that particular product because, as you can see there, there's not that many. I'll just pick the 2 middle ones. Call pickup, a triple beat tone for call pickup with H323 devices, or a single button press as well. As you can see, if you look at that list, it's not all that entertaining. But if you have a look at the other 2 things that we just talked about, the fact that you've got AVP in lots of different modes, cutting TCO down on that way, maybe that's the way people want to go. From an SBC point of view, there's a new release of that, version 7, which I'll just go down a few of the points on this. There is new platforms which allow us to put the EMS, the management server, onto the same server that as doing our session border controller in terms of sessions. So rather than have 3 servers, again, if you do a HA deployment, we can box that down to 2. From a SIC rep point of view, you have that feature now which is available with SBC7, also aligned with WFO, so that's the Avaya WFO suite. So that's on 12.1, that will support the WFO solution there, so that possibly could reduce, if you're using that feature, the DSPs needed. From a CES traffic point of view, for those that have those deployed, you have something called a handset server, which normally lives in your DMZ. Well, the SBC lives in there anyway, so why don't we put that bit of software into this as well? So that's what we're doing. And down at the bottom, yeah, all right, they've changed the GUI. Wonderful. But I suppose the capacities and the sizing is that we're after. So now we can deliver, if you look down the standard column at the top there, we can now deliver up to 10,000 sessions on the servers, and there's the first instance of the G9 servers as well. But I suppose most people will be looking at the VMware section. Previously, that was an awful lot smaller, but now we can deliver up to 2,500 sessions all on one server itself. If you want encrypted or use the advanced sections, which I just talked about from a UC point of view, we can deliver 1,800 of those. And of course, if you want more than one of them, more than one VMware session, there you go. So from an AES point of view, there's some elements of that which I've highlighted in red here. Most of what we do from a a HA point of view, so a north-south integration of what I'm thinking here from an AES point of view is we use fast reboot or machine preserving. Both of those not supported going forward in CM7. But what you will do is you will see a feature called geographic redundancy, which used to only be an east-west scenario, but now it will do also north-south as well as east-west. And also the features ability of fast reboot HA are also ported onto this geographic redundancy. Now, there are some people out there that have machine preserving. That is up to 6.3.3, and we can also do a CM7 design and keep the AES at those versions if needed. Also, from a presence point of view, which is another thing that's on this slide, going forward as well, presence services will now live on EDP instead of the old presence server, which now gives us scale, and it also gives us the ability now to do high availability. So again, this is going to be the way forward on that front. System Manager, looking up the top there on the right hand side, it uses fast reboot HA in order to do its HA version. That will disappear as well, and that will use geo redundancy going forward. Now, there is another toy called System Manager, which I'm sure you already use anyway, but added to that is a software application called Solution Deployment Manager. So on the right-hand side of this funnel, you'll see just above that 3 totally different applications, which would have had 3 totally different servers, possibly, to be able to run all those. So what we're now doing via the Solution Deployment Manager is putting all those 3 into one. And this will then give me the ability to keep my applications current, deploy application software, and allow me to upgrade in an automatic fashion, which I think I've got on the next slide, to be fair. Yes, I have. So on the right-hand side, you'll see in the red, we're moving to an automatic, faster, and more reliable solution, as opposed to what we had before, which is a manual, open to human error, and there's a process and an order in which you must upgrade things. All that goes away with this solution deployment application. This is free, by the way. It's not a chargeable. What it does mean, though, that all CM7 designs need to have System Manager, at least. Present services, as I alluded to earlier, this is where engagement development platform comes in. You can see that we have increased scalability now, so we can go all the way up to 250,000 users, and we can do that also with an active high availability mode, which we couldn't do before. So again, presence-wise, this is the way forward. There are some changes to ASD, and there's an example, there's a screenshot of that report. I will show you that as I move through the pricing scenarios. That you'll be able to see further on. So in terms of ASD in the summary, I've just highlighted one section in red from every single bit of this, and as you can see, most of the big topics I've already covered as an overview already for you here. So let me move on to the session that I did. So as Rob alluded to earlier, there was on the 3rd of September in Guildford, we did a session in the morning with Avaya, who were doing the sales portion of it, and I was doing a pre-sale session in the afternoon. So I got the pre-sale session that I was going. I'll just quickly whiz through some of these slides just to give you some pricing examples as well. Now, the pricing that I put in is in dollars, and it is based on a tier 1, a platinum type partner, but it'll give you some indicative pricing. And also what it does do is includes our buy prices, because there's a couple things in here which are non-discountable. So I need to show you what those are. Okay, so we'll start with a bit of one slide recap of the first 7 slides there. That's quite cute about the CM7, is based on the 7 new features and the changes on there. And then I'll pop through those pricing examples of it. Now, down the bottom, I have not included on this the Internet Explorer 11 for A1S and this Enterprise mode for A1S. Do drop me a line if you need to do any pricing on that and you haven't already moved from desktop ASD, which is going at the end of the month, to Avaya OneSource, and then we can arrange something on that front. So without further ado on this one, on forward. So one side summary of AVP. So on the left-hand side is your full VMware solution. So the customer would have to supply all the servers, the hypervisor, the software, and be fully trained in terms of being able to support a VMware application. This is where AVP differs. So if you go to the right-hand side, you'll see that the virtualized appliance model is, and you have a look at that big red section in the middle of the screen there, and this is based on a customized version of VMware. So things like vCenter, vSphere, vMotion, VMware HA, DRS, and all that are not supported. That, if you want to do all that, that's when you go down the full VMware road. So this is just the ability for us to virtualize the apps and be able to stick them on a single server or several apps on one server. You also have to be aware that because the system platform is now gone, and that's how engineers used to tell the server what it was, that has now got to be installed on every single server so that you can tell it what it's going to be deployed for. And that's what those are for. Now, Collaboration Pod is the which is Avaya providing bits of tin this time, but with full VMware solution. So you end up with three scenarios here. Do you want your VMware that we supply all of it and you don't need to have many skills in it? Or you go all the way to the end where you supply me all the tin and the customer supplies you with all the skills and the licenses? Or you go down the Collaboration Pod where Avaya supply you the servers and the VMware, and full things like vMotion, DRS, all that are not supported on every single app, but in the CPod environment they are. From a CM7 point of view, the CPod are not going to be upgraded to that until around about the December timeframe. So one side summary, SDM, I think we've covered this already. So you'll see the three main applications will then now be ported into System Manager, and you can see at the bottom there, I've just highlighted the fact you, from a CM7 design point of view, you need System Manager going forward. Three-side summary of AMS. AMS is the Avaya Media Server. You can see at the top there is our virtualization models. Again, the two modes, whether it's us or Avaya providing the kit, then I have a limit of 550 sessions in a virtualized environment. Now, if I wanted 551, it would give me 2 of those instances and charge me accordingly, and I'll show you that later on. Down at the bottom, you'll see that we have option 3 and option 4, which will be, there's another term that you have to be aware of now called bare metal, which is basically a server that's provided either by the customer or by Avaya, which will then have nothing but Linux on it, and then you can install whatever you want. If you want to do that, that is how we get to the 4,000 users. There is also a medium server, which is not on this list, which takes you up to that 1,700 users, so I don't think that small one's right. But you have to bear in mind that this, now that we've gone GA, the actual terminology has changed slightly. So in terms of engineering that solution, AMS, what effect does it have? Well, on this list, we'll just start bottom upwards. Let's do that. AMS do not impact call flow, so that's fine. So all the call flow and all the things we go through, it's not changed any of that. If you go through EDP first or whatever, nothing is changed by the fact you've got AMS on there. AMS 7.7, so as you can see, it's from the Nortel world, hence 7.7 requires CM7. The question that we've already been asked is, can I use AMS in version 6? Well, the answer is no, you can't. It doesn't require any trunks or SIP trunk groups on the CM to make it work. Session Manager is even not needed, so that alludes to the fact that AMS can be used in a H323 environment, and you're not even going down the SIP road. It's just a bag of DSPs at the end of the day. And the signaling between AMS and the CM, it is direct. So you don't need to go through a session manager. Just have a mouthful of water, just one sec. Thank you. So benefits with it. So as I've alluded to at the top, so back at DSPs, lots of IVRs, large amounts of gateways in resources that I used before, SIP or H323 requirements. Again, I can use it from a CM point of view up there, or down at the bottom. We already alluded to this. We've already got TDM stuff, which nearly every gateway happens to have, or G450s, and don't really want to invest in the AMS going forward, or maybe they do. Again, pick choices there. On one side, story of Session Manager. Now, I'm not going to go through what it does, but just the fact that it's got this new additional license. CM7, actually, I'll just take a step back. CM6 was not pleased at all in terms of Session Manager. The only thing you would have to have is connection licenses for third-party applications or sequenced applications. So what I've done, they've done away with all that because that was all quite complex, and said, look, listen, if you're going to have a Session Manager now, you will need to have an instance license, and that's this $1,300. Now, the bit in brackets is quite interesting as well because it's non-discountable. So it's $1,300 and that's your lot. Now, it's for all new systems. This is quite key. I know that I've done a fair few designs where I've done a 5 to 7 upgrade and stopped at 6 and put the 12 session managers that you're allowed to have in there because they're only a penny. And then upgraded from that point to 7, so it would charge me nothing for the existing 12. That's a possibility. So I'm not saying that's the way forward, by the way. I'll just mention it. And down the bottom is what an enable will see. So when they're trying to administer another instance, as they would have, it will pop up with an error saying you're not allowed to do it. You haven't got enough. You need to then go ahead and buy another one. So bear that in mind. One side story of Session Manager, AES, and Presence Server, we already alluded to the bits on the right, so all I want to do is just repoint out again. MPHA, if you look at a lot of people who had to go down that road for having high availability for like Genesis and apps of that nature, they can still continue to go down this road with a CM7 instance, but the AES will remain at version 6.3.3. And whilst you have that conversation about how to move forward. So, part 1. So I'm going to look at pricing from a CM7 point of view. We're going to look at the design changes for those of you who do use ASD, and for those of you in the engineering, sales, pre-sales role, you'd report. So you'll be able to see on this particular side that I have, right at the very top, it's a duplex design with AVPs. It's version 7 using this new Vmware in shared mode. So I'm going to stick a load of apps on this server with new licenses for VMware. So this is a royalty license for VMware, because remember it's a cut down version, with SA and with the G450. And then we'll have a look at the new report. So there's no phones on this. I've taken all the penny license keys out to make it not so much an eye chart, so you can just have a look and see what there is. I've highlighted the bits in red as well, so you can have a look at those. So if we start at the very top, just above the red, I've got 320 extension numbers on it. The reason why I picked 320 is if you have a look at a G450 and fully load it with DSP's extra power supply, which I've done on this one, then it can do 320 resources. Hence the reason why I've got 320, but it's kind of irrelevant, that top bit. So below that, I've got the fact I've got a duplex pair of servers. So at very least, I'm going to need 2 servers. Well, that's good. It's done that for me. And you can see that I've now got a DLG 360 PG8. So it's not the 9s. Not, as I said, not everything has got the 9s. But it will give me some medium-based servers for these 320 users. And you can see the price of 13,030 as an APL. And obviously there's 2 of them, so again, if you go 2 across, you'll see 26,000, and you'll see our bot price from Westcon, so what we'll deliver them for you. Now, below that, you will see what we call CMN enabled. This is your VMware license. This is discountable, this one, and it will get at the price of $1,510, and it goes on each server. So you can see again that there are 2 of those. Now you also notice there's another item in red here, which is a Nic Card. The actual Nic Card in the servers needs to be beefed up, and I'll show you that on the report a bit later on as what they are. These are not cheap, and it's something to bear in mind as well. So a pair of servers, VMware license, and the Nic Cards. And down at the very bottom, this VMware license also has some SA to go with it. So you have to bear that in mind as well. I'm not going to get into the why SA preferred argument. I'm sure Rob will address that, or various people already have. So moving on, how do we do this in ASD? So this is an example of the initial screen where you tell it what you want. So I'm selecting shared now instead of 8730s or simplex or duplex pair servers, and I'm putting the utility server also on the same one. Okay, that's fair enough. I then move on to the actual licenses themselves, and as you can see at the very top, core license suite, new suite, 320 users. And they're also selected from a system manager point of view, because remember, I need one of those on CM7. I'll put that down as shared as well. So it's going to live on the same servers. There's not going to be a separate server for this. The new bit is the fact that I have to tell it how many users are going to be controlled by that session manager. So in this case, obviously the 320. So in terms of the report, so this is me using Avaya OneSource to configure this. I can see that I go into, on the left-hand side, just before I go to pricing, I can see Communication Manager. I can select the configuration report. I then get about halfway down that report, and I'll see a field that's called Locations. And that's what we're looking at here. So the top section of it tells me what I have as a solution going forward. So I can see a Avaya Communication Manager Duplex. I've got 2 of those. I've got a Utility Services, and I've got a SAL, because I need one of those too, and I've got System Manager. So how has it spread those around? So if you have a look, I've got 2 CRS2 medium servers. The top one, I have got virtualization on it. Well, that's good. I've got 1 duplex CM, and I've got utility services. On the other one, however, apart from those, I've got SAL and System Manager is also on the same box. And then also it does tell an engineer, in order to get this to work, you need to install AVP via the AVP installation CD and deploy and so on. So you can see that this report is telling you how things spread around, and also the order in which they have to be processed. So we'll then look at taking that design a little bit further. So this is what my part 2, same scenario. So we'll have, now this time we'll have a look at the very top. So 4 slides again of the same design, but this time with AMS in place of that G450, and the licenses for the AMS and the SAA for the AMS. So just before I do that, I want to pop you back to the first slide. Right hand side, in the middle there, you've got how much G450 is. Roughly speaking, it's about $16,500 fully loaded. $16,500. So we initially have a look at the AMS, which again is in the middle of the screen there, and the SA to go with it. So what was $16,500 is about just shy of 30. The same size. So, you take your choice. Now, you also notice that at the top, it's changed my 2 servers from medium to large as well. So instead of going from a 13 grand server, I've now gone to a 24 grand server, and 2 of them to boot as well. So although AMS has the abilities, but you need to have a look at the fact, all right, maybe I'm adding HA onto it later, or maybe I know that it's going to increase, or maybe rack space is the issue. So that in mind, you've got a $65 charge for if you just have a look at the 320 line there per channel. Now the offered def is wrong. It says that the channel licenses are $50. I've had that confirmed by ATAC. It is $65. So all we've done is we changed to an AMS from a gateway. So on the left top of the screen, sorry, not left, top of the screen on the right hand side, you'll see my normal traditional gateways that I choose, but just below that I have AMS locally. And now also I've got two other things on there, which is AMS at another location. So I could be sharing resources that are at a different location, or I could choose to share this system with another system. So again, I can pick and choose as to where these AMSs are going to be. Now obviously gateways, you can't do that. With AMSs you can. So again, there's another reason why you might choose it. If you go down to the bottom, I can choose how that I want an AMS, but now I'm choosing how I need to provide that AMS. Is Avaya going to provide it in shared model, or are we going to be using this bare metal? Are we going to get the customer to supply this bare metal, or are we doing VM? Or am I choosing advanced and overriding what this algorithm is deploying for me? So I'm just on the next slide, I'll show you where that advanced section happens to be. In fact, we'll cover it right now. Now, obviously, I haven't picked it, but you'll see bottom of the screen there in grey is the advanced servers and the OVA instances that I can change. So I've chosen on this one to provide a shared server. I'm not doing HA, and I'm not downloading, not providing CDs. I can download the software, but I want 320 channels. So that's what I did, and that's how I got to this scenario. So now on that report again, you can see that it's changed a little bit now. So again, it's telling me what I've got, and the only thing at the bottom of the list at the top there is this Avaya Media server. It's plonked me onto the two large servers, as I alluded to earlier. And it tells me that the two large servers in there need to have these applications installed on those. And you can see that the AMS has appeared on the top one to get us going on that front. So part 3 of this takes us into adding some more elements and see what happens then. So top again, same design, but this time we're adding Session Manager with its new licenses and that report again. Now, if you have a look at the top, Session Manager has been added. It's still giving us large servers, so that's fine. But the key thing that I wanted to highlight on this, because it's non-discountable, you'll be able to see it's $1,300 across the board, even the buy price from Westcon, no change, right? So from a design point of view, at the top of the screen here, you'll see that the previous connection license and things have all disappeared now. At the bottom, I've chosen under my location tab what type of shared or standalone section I happen to have. This, by the way, I have to select how many user devices, because remember that MDA section not only said how many users, but it could have 2,500 users, or with 10 devices. So again, it will give me a different quantity that I need to choose there. So we're now getting into the instances scenario. Now, the other cool thing is that I probably am going to highlight here is the fact of next to the quantity of SM instances, it's some wording then. It says quantity of SM instances that cannot share services with another SM instance. What I have seen in the past is you have one server with two lots of session managers on the same server. And you might say, no, actually, I want to split those in case I lose that server. You have to bear in mind that all these are duplex as well, in terms of power supplies and things. But you might want to spread the love and have dedicated servers for dedicated things like registration handsets, one does SIP trunks and SIP routing and things of that nature. So for this design, I chose this as a core session manager. I put it on an Avaya provided server. I know I've only got 320 users. I'm not using MDA, so one instance is fine. We do charge for the core. As you saw, it was $1,300. What we don't do is charge for branch session managers. However, you will need to put them in because there is a 1P tracking license for those. So if we have a look at the report on that one again, we can see that I've got Session Manager now added to my list of features at the top of this. And then we have a look and see where it's put it. It's put it on the second server. So it's spreading the love between them, and I've still got two large servers. So far, so good. Now, what I also need to bring you into is something called profiles as well. You'll see that during some of this, you have to choose a profile and the license. So the best way to look at it is the top section here, I've just done the AES elements of it, and you have different profiles for the amount of megahertz that the particular application uses or the memory. So you have to pick and choose the right profile for a certain user, and then you have to pick from a GRHA point of view a license, now whether that be small, medium or large. So for example, if I wanted to use Genesis wanted a DLG license, the only way I can do that is with the large license. I can't choose anything else. But as you can see in this case, I'm going to be using call recording and Avaya call recording, and that for all 320 of my users. We'll be using the DMCC bit at the bottom there, and it's less than 500, so I can go into the small category. I'm also, if you have a look at the very top line again, I'll be using AES in its north-south configuration. So I'm going to be doing HA, but I've only got one site. Yeah, so I'm looking at a duplex pair of servers and also a pair of AESs. So I'm going to have 4 servers, or am I going to have 2? How's it going to work? What's it going to do? So let's have a look. So AES 7, I've also provided that shared as well. So it's not going to be a separate. It's going to be on the existing pair of servers I've already got. I've also chosen that this is a profile 1, because I've only got 320 users, DSP resources and all that, and it's call recording, it's fine. But I'm doing a quantity of GRHA small licenses. So again, you can see that I'm picking and choosing. Down the bottom, I'm putting no, because it's purely trusted for Avaya WFO solutions. So from an AES point of view, this is what I want to have a look at. AES R7 GRA SN license, okay, small license that stands for, 9,900. Okay, that's not bad, because fast reboot machine preserving were at least 40 grand a pop, so that makes it a bit cheaper. Also, I'm looking at the AES down the bottom in terms of the support as well. Again, it's preferred for the GRHA position. What you will also note is that I've now moved to servers which are back to medium, but this time there are 3 of them. So what was large before and over a pair of servers, because of this and because of the workload that's required, it's now put me back to medium and provided me 3. However, there is a slight mistake there in terms of the G360 P8 1 gigabit PCI quad port Nic cards. What should be 3 is now saying I need 6. Oh, right, okay. So that's wrong. They're not cheap. They're $2,100 each. So as you can see, there's some movement. Let's call it that way. So again, let's have a look at that report. At the top there, you can see that Communication Manager ×2, Utility, Application Enablement Services ×2. So, right, so it's seen that fat up on GRHA on that. There's my one single session manager, there's my cell, system manager, and I need 2 WebLMs because I've got enterprise-wide licensing, which I can spread across a pair of these AESs, and I've got a media server as well. And then you can see down the bottom the 3 servers and what's on each one. Now, I suppose this is a work in progress. If you have a look at that top server, it's put both WebLMs on the same server, which you wouldn't do, to be fair. You move things around. But I suppose, yeah, it's a work in progress. This is, as a guide, I suppose, is the way I'd look at this. What would be nice to see is some sort of utilization of that server, and you utilized all this and you got this much free and spare and be able to put things wherever you like. So as I say, this is work in progress still. So from that point of view, I do have some questions that I'm going to open the bridge so you can have a look at those. But some of the other bits before we get that far. Elite M, which is the call center mid-market package, which included your WFO and your CM at a reduced cost, has disappeared with CM7. So again, we won't be able to use that. So read into that what you want, whether AACC is going to be the key going forward. Now, from a parity point of view between H323 devices and SIP, we were nearly there if I had that SIP service reserve feature, which has now not made it into CM7. So I believe we're now looking at 7.01, which is going to be the end of the year. So your call center at this stage still need to be H323. EDP, from a present services point of view, your present services are included. They're free with the core licenses. You get one instance of EDP free in order to be able to use this. From a design point of view, you need to make sure that you put the EDP requirements for the present server, so you still select present services, but you do it on the present services form and not on the EDP form, in order that the algorithm can work out how we provide services on these. And I think that was the end of it. So, Andrew, if you can open the bridge, and any questions? Or is it all quiet out there? Use the chat window if you want. Or if everybody's happy, I'll pass it back to Rob if you're still there.
Yeah, hi Steve. Yep, thanks. As Steve said, if there are any questions at a later date, then do let us know. We'll send our email addresses out to you, and obviously I think everyone on the call probably has details of the pre-sales address as well. But just to recap, we will be sending out the recording of the update, and I think from Steve's side it's quite a task to get the key updates condensed from what was a week to a day session at Avaya to an hour and 15 session today. So thank you, Steve, for the update. I think, from the audience that you've got today, hopefully we'll take any feedback. And we've got another one next week. So if there is any feedback on the call, then please drop us an email, and we'll certainly try and add any further details in on the next on the webinar. But otherwise, if there's no other questions, then I guess, Steve, we close off the bridge. But thank you again for your time on today's update.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, we'll just call it a day there. I'll leave the bridge open for another couple of minutes in terms of questions. Put them in the bridge, and my colleague Andrew will be able to help going forward. And for that, just thank you for your time, and goodbye. Thank you.